Zero, yeah, pure athlete, yeah, and I've been, maligned from the top to the bottom, and because they can't handle the Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream of the crop, nobody does it better.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today, we're going to see if we can lose some subscribers, maybe piss some people off, talk about something that can it's a fire plug in the community, something that gets the emotions going up. We're going to talk a little bit about Comicsgate, where I kind of start out with the channel and what we think is going on, or what I'm going to call it in the title, what the hell happened with Comicsgate? And with me to talk about it is Doc. What's up, buddy?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm doing well. There's been a lot of chatter about Comicsgate, recently, and I was a card-carrying member of Comicsgate, 18 months ago. I was fully on board. It was a great community. We were always, hashtag Muse and Evil. Everyone's showing their comic books, and it felt like we were on the precipice of providing a real alternative. We were going to have all these great creators that were stepping back from the big two. We're going to create some new IPs and show that there was a better way to create products. There was a better way by treating customers with respect and things of those natures, all the tenets, the values that Comicsgate kind of encompass. And if people don't know, this is kind of how we met, right?
Yeah. From that exact situation, showing up on different people's live streams or BSing in the comments, talking on Twitter. Yeah, that's pretty much how we met. So,
and it's honestly the inspiration for the channel. It would be Doug Ernst. Obviously, diversity in comics and comic artist Pro Secrets. Back when he was talking about comics all the time, I really enjoyed it. It reignited my passions for comics and something I wanted to do, and it's the reason I have a channel here today. So I have a lot of good memories about Comicsgate. I have a lot of good feelings for Comicsgate and all those creators, and I don't want to just leave it to those three. Anglantine, Captain Cummings.
Just some guy.
Yeah, there's so many of them. They're all very impactful, and I appreciate everything that they've done. And I wouldn't be here doing this, talking to you without them. So I have a warm place in my heart for Comicsgate. About 15 months ago, things started going kind of weird. There's a little bit too much infighting going on, so I kind of just stepped back a little bit, decided to watch from the sidelines, and things got progressively worse. Doc, you've been in the front lines. You've gotten into a lot of debates. With some of those creators, with some of those passionate fans, those people that were attacking Comicsgate and trying to say it was a hate group and stuff. You've been fighting this battle on all sides. Where did this all go wrong, or did it even all go wrong?
It kind of went wrong, and it kind of went sideways too. It's like it's in some ways it turned into the thing it hated, and in some ways it just started shifting, and we started excusing things that we never would have excused before. I don't know where it went wrong. I mean, to a degree, it felt like it needed, like the creators coming on into the Comicsgate thing felt necessary, but at the same time, when the creators did so while simultaneously kind of overshadowing the customer voices of guys like Doug Ernst and Anglantine and Unranked Chevron and all those other guys, they started immediately eclipsing. I mean, because look, let's be honest.
So we got to point out one thing that did happen. The diversity in comics, who was a big personality on Twitter, on social media, he removed himself from that, and it created a big vacuum.
It kind of did.
Somebody needed to fill that as like a focal point of Comicsgate, where the detractors could go and attack, and it became the creators because they were the most notable people that were left.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for them to get to kind of start overshadowing critics because let's be honest, outside of unless you spend a lot of time, nobody knows who Doug Ernst or Captain Cummings or Anglantine. Those aren't household names, but Ethan is, John Malin is, Doug Tenaple when he was still considering himself a part of Comicsgate. Mike Miller, I guess to some extent when he was too. A lot of those creators, they are more well known. They are much more well known, at least within the comic circles. So them getting the kind of the bigger voice is not surprising. The problem is when people started listening to them, to when they decided that it was their place to start talking on it, like kind of being the voice of the consumer while simultaneously being the producer. It seems that there's, I got some natural
conflict of interest, maybe.
Yeah, I got some natural skepticism, and my kind of conflict of interest alarm started going off in my head. I got so like, can we really believe that? I don't know. And then you start getting then it starts kind of splitting the consumer, the consumer side into the kind of the same thing that we had pre Comicsgate, which was the fanboy factions of comics readers that were saying Comicsgate's a hate group, and the skeptics or the consumers that just want to be able to criticize bad comics and bad creator behavior freely, and hopefully develop some change out of that. And now you started kind of having the same thing, except for instead of it being brand, to a degree, Comicsgate kind of became a brand rather than a movement, and now you end up kind of creating brand loyalty. And you see it with some of like the CG only talk about with indie comics, especially when CG phase 2 happened, I guess, as what they're calling it, which is when I just say that it just became it stopped being stopped being Comicsgate. It just became indie comics.
I want to halt you there. This was a severe miscalculation, on my opinion, because there are some people that would just, if there was a connected like Cyber Frog, Jawbreakers universe, that would be enough, and they would be like, yes, if I could get 5 or 6 books in that universe a year, that's that would be the focus of my fandom as far as comics go. But I think the vast majority of comics readers and comics fans like you or I, that isn't enough. I just want that to be the sprinkling on top, the little accoutrement, the like a something that I could go visit and be like, yes, I'm supporting this because these are exhibiting the values and things that I believe in. But I want a great DC universe. I want a really cool functioning X-Men universe. Like, if there's no functioning X-Men universe, is there reason for you to be part of comics anymore, Doc?
No,
exactly.
Because let's be honest. Richard can create, a great, interesting thing with Jawbreakers. Ethan may do a beautiful Cyber Frog book. Mike may make Lone Star into a great superhero. At the end of the day, sorry, you guys don't have Batman, you don't have Spider-Man, you don't have the X-Men. Who gives a shit? You don't have cultural icons. And which kind of brings me to the next problem, which is when they now have the voice louder than that of the critic, and the critic tries to hold them accountable, and their fanboys essentially decide to play attack dogs for them. You end up with a situation where I can sit back and I can say, wow, this is really starting to feel a lot like the same behavior that the mainstream pros engaged in, that we all walked away from in 2017, but now it's just coming from a bunch of indie pros in 2020. And I'll be honest, I walked away from the guy with X-Men. You think I'm going to give a shit about walking away from the guys that control a bunch of, a robot frog and a Captain America knockoff? No, I don't give a shit about those.
So, it's one of the interesting things that another thing that really contributed to this, when Zach, started his channel, Diversity in Comics, outrage or controversy was a big selling point, but almost 100% of his outrage and controversy were always directed at the industry.
Yes. And now,
and then when he kind of stepped back and we had the rise of some of these creators that started their own channels and everything, they realized that outrage and controversy sells because it drives an audience. They want to hear what you say, who's going this. And I think at one point they realized that they didn't need an outrage or a controversy that was actually going on within the industry. They could create it between each other.
Yep.
And they started having these weird, internet blood sports.
Yeah.
And they started attacking each other. And then they started finding that, not everybody wanted to promote their channel or promote their content on the back of controversy and outrage. So they started trying to drag in unwilling participants.
Oh, God,
I think that's really when I started. I was like, okay, this isn't really for me anymore. Like, I don't think it's right to be trying to drag these people in. They don't even want to talk about this. They're trying to move on and do other things, but you keep dragging their names and their reputations through the mud so you can, generate an audience. Because once your brand is outrage, once your brand is controversy, you have to have outrage and controversy to bring the audience back.
And if you don't have it, make it up.
Yes. And so I think there was a lot of it was actually at the beginning. I think it wasn't real. I think they were making controversy up just to, to have something to talk about. And then it kind of all got out of control.
I don't think any of the producer or the professional creator content has ever actually, I don't think they've ever actually seen anything wrong with anything that the mainstream pros were really doing, because they're doing the same thing themselves, except for in promoting their indie comics. They're basically saying, the consumer doesn't matter. The only way that I can't tell the difference between a lot of these people anymore and the mainstream pros. So I think a lot of it was just it's WWF play acting.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's trying to get out their heel persona for their heel turn.
Yeah, cutting promos on each other and shoot interviews. That's all this is at this point. And sorry, none of these people are going to actually beat each other up. I don't care. It might be more interesting to me if I thought that the Pie Man versus the Hawaiian or whatever the hell, one of these guys. These people are all severely damaged. And I think that's what it comes down to. A bunch of severely damaged people trying to their best to make themselves, to gain internet clout and yell at each other and see who does it best.
No, I think there's a lot of pot stirrers, and I think there are a lot of people that they can't, and no offense, you're kind of one of them. You can't say no to the argument. You can't not jump in there. So you got these pot stirrers be like, oh yeah, let me say this today and see who I can get mad at each other. So I do think there's a select group, a handful of people that are out there. I wouldn't call them puppet masters, but I think they're having fun, creating distrust or dissension within the group, and I think they've enjoyed it the whole time.
If I just went and I've tried it with, and I've kept them. I've had certain words muted on my Twitter account for a while, and honestly, makes me happy. I don't see any of it. So some of the the controversies or the non-troversies entirely pass me by, and I'm oblivious. I'm happy about it. But sometimes I miss a keyword, and I see something, and I cannot help myself. I can't. I have no self-control with that, and I admit that. You know, it is definitely a moral failing, a character failing.
Well, it's because you're passionate about it. It's something that you felt very passionate about. You put a lot into it. You believed in everything, and you've seen that it. You know, I don't want to say it was been burned to the ground, but it's been fundamentally altered.
It has, and it's not what it was. You know, and I think hoping that it ever becomes what it was again is
that's fool's gold.
Yeah, it's foolish.
And I don't want people to go, oh, Wes, you know, thinks that all the new Comicsgate guys are wrong or whatever. They're not wrong. I'm still friends with all the same people. I still believe all the same things. I just don't get into it anymore because I've chosen not to. But you know, the financial interest, you know, people are making money. There are customers out there that are very happy and they're glad to be part of the movement, and I'm happy for them. But I just want to, you know, this isn't, you know, we're not trying to bag on people. We're just trying to talk out what happened, you know. And another thing that you know, we kind of talked about it a bit, you know, on another video, the war of like frogs and cherries that goes on, and that's where we kind of are now, where it's just sniping back and forth, and it feels like I'm reading the novel 1984, where the allies are constantly switching, and oh no, we were friends the whole time, but no, now I hate you, and everyone's like constantly switching sides, and it's hilarious.
It's this weird. Well, this is the problem with a lot of these stupid fights. They get built upon alliances, and I've always had a problem with alliances because they're based on like this weird, shifting, ever-changing, nebulous.
Well, we're Gen Xers. We're just like that. We're never going to go into anything. I have no blind allegiance to anybody, especially now that I'm not in the military.
Yeah, and I'm
always going to be skeptical.
Yeah, same here. And I will prefer friendship and principles over allies and a hashtag any day of the week. Mm-hmm. I find that the definition of the hashtag, of the Comicsgate hashtag, has fundamentally altered, and I have no interest in what it is currently. I know that there's a lot of people that still want to stick with it because they don't want to let it go, and that's fine. But I think that they need to admit that they're sticking with it, or they're altering their principles, because you can't have both right now. But anybody,
people that are Comicsgate still don't have principles.
No.
You know,
but I mean,
change. You know, they could. You know, I think the idea of creating an alternative is refreshing, and it had a lot of potential. I thought this was going to be something completely different. It just didn't turn out like
it should have been.
I could be a part of anymore.
It should have been Image Comics 2.0 to actually build the industry, because as it stands right now, it's just subtracting from it. You're creating more content, yes, sure, great, and you're taking money out of the local comic shop to do it. Because now I understand Richard, you know, your boy Zach not going anywhere near the comic shops right now. He has every reason. He's in a lawsuit specifically because he was kept out of it. He wanted to be in the comic shop, and he was kept out of it. And he's in a lawsuit to prove that right now, and to set an example for the rest of the industry. However, there are other creators that are not anywhere near as controversial, that have a history, the people that came from the industry, that could get into comic shops without anything like that happening to them, that have chosen not to. They're, instead of producing more content to actually grow, all they're doing is just cannibalizing by reprinting the exact. I mean, how many times? Look, I don't want to keep coming back to Ethan on this, because I really don't think it's about him. How many times can you print the same comic and grow your audience? Print number 2. Make number 2. That's what people want. They don't buy a comic to buy number 1. They buy it to read a story.
In defense, he has a family to feed. He needs to have new content available to sell. But if he doesn't have a book to produce, I guess he's got to throw a new cover on it and sell the book back to the same people.
Yeah, I get that, and that's fine. He's welcome to do that. But again, if that's not growing the industry in any way. And a lot of the variants, I can understand if you're doing it, people want sequential storytelling and they want serialized storytelling. That's what makes comics great. Sequential, serialized storytelling, and one and done, or one, and then we're going to do this other thing, and then we'll come back to maybe doing this thing, and then where you're just jumping around isn't fun.
Doc, we covered a lot of ground here today. Obviously, we didn't cover everything, but I think we identified some of the key areas or moments where this thing, where comics kind of went off the rails of the original intention. And now it's on a different track. It's going in a different direction. I personally have kind of removed myself. I know you have done the same. Are you still a fulfilled comics fan? I know that you wish it were still going, but what? On without Comicsgate.
You know what? Yeah, because one of the reasons why we created why Comicsgate came in the first place is because the mainstream industry was treating readers like crap, insulting them to their face, and telling them we don't matter. In the past 2 years, at least their behavior has improved. Dan Slott's not out there calling people pixels anymore. They're not replacing now. I mean, they're going to replace Tony Stark again, but they're not replacing every hero you like with some Burger King Kids Club replacement.
Well, DC's trying to do that, but we're going to talk about that in another video.
Yeah, but for the most part, like the things that we had an issue with Marvel, they're starting to fix. Are they still overdoing it on variants? Yes. Are they still going with artificial, are they overpriced artificial, milestones, unnecessary events, all those things? Yes, they're still doing them, but they're also less forceful about making you read them. That you're not, if you want to read about Peter Parker effing Spider-Man, you could just go pick up Peter Parker's comic. You can go pick up ASM tomorrow. And for the most part, they've minimized. There was about 10 issues in there where they kind of got all crossover happy. But first 25 issues, and then the most recent issue, they're back to just telling the story that they wanted to tell. It's a self-contained series. You can sit there and read, and you can ignore the fact that the Spider-Man brand has been diluted to the point where it's arachno person. X-Men is doing okay. Is it still overpriced? Is it still? But I'm not getting tastes like mustard and bigotry anymore. They actually put a little bit of talent. Well, I don't know what's going on in Excalibur, but they're putting decent product out there. Their creators are less shitty to the fans, and they're being more respectful of the characters we love.
But where are you at? Are you happy? Can you function without Comicsgate?
Oh yeah, I'm perfectly happy. I can ignore them. It's not what I wanted anymore, and I still want the same things. And for the most part, I'm getting some of them.
Mm-hmm. But you're not like a bitter lover, right? Where you feel scorned.
No,
you're okay with other people having their own Comicsgate that's just different than what it started out.
That's fine. The only problem that I will always end up getting dragged into it is when they tell me that it's still exactly the same. Yeah, no, it changed. Accept that it changed. Be honest that it changed. And people will be okay with it. But it doesn't create villains of the week to claim it didn't change.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.